Well, you had to know it was coming, right? Eventually, after Isle of Madness came out, I was going to release a Sorcerer deck list, and after having played this quite a bit on stream and off stream, I think I have found a list that I am really enjoying. On stream the other night, I just kind of threw it together, and I managed to climb like 250 spots or something in one night, and I've been having success with it even still. It is a lot of fun to play. And yeah, we're going to go through the list and kind of talk about some of the inclusions post Isle of Madness. I will put a link in the description of the video that will link to Legends decks, where I will post this as well. And I will also include the deck code in the video description as well if you want to import it. If you're on mobile, you should be able to click on the Legends decks link and then snag the code from there, because I know that sometimes people have a hard time copying the code on mobile. But Legends Decks has a location now where you can copy deck codes from their website as well. So maybe it'll work a little bit better there for you, hopefully. All right, let's take a look at some of the inclusions. There's essentially 3 cards that I want to highlight because they kind of impact the rest of the list. So first and foremost is Doomfang Ally. This probably comes as no shock, but when this thing triggers, it's very, very powerful. And in this particular list, it is most commonly a 3/3 ward, which for 3 is a bargain in my opinion. It is also sometimes a 3/5, and every now and then, you know, you get the dream and you get a 3/5 ward. Essentially, it's just a ball of stats. But the reason I highlight it is because that's the reason we're not running the Moose. There is no Wilds Incarnate in this list because we're trying to reduce the number of neutrals that we're running. The only other neutral card that we're running is Fork of Horripilation, because without Moose, we need some card draw. And it turns out Fork is actually pretty easy to trigger in this list, and it gets you an awful lot of cards, so it's a great inclusion. In my opinion, anyway. I've had a lot of success with it. So, Doomfang Ally, again, most commonly you're going to end up with a 3/3 ward here. And again, also the reason why Wurmking's Agent has snuck back into the list, because I wanted a little bit more top end, and running something that is a split color card that helps out Doomfang has been kind of nice. And if I'm being honest, some of the other card inclusions work really well with Wurmking's Agent on top of it, right? So this particular list is running Lesser Ward, which I'll touch on in a little bit. But that helps you get extra value out of your Wurmking when you're trying to get long-term value or trying to stall out against aggressive decks, things like that, so you can kind of turn a corner. But that's why Wurmking is back in the list. Now, the next card that I want to talk about is Manic Jack and its counterpart, Manic Mutation. Manic Jack is kind of hilarious in this list. You can view it as, at worst case scenario, right, a 4/4 for 4 that just is going to have a random keyword, right? But it's oh so much better than that in this particular list, because you have so many other ways to give him keywords, and Manic Jack is jacked. He is juiced. He has been 6/6s and 7/7s and even larger for me at times, because it's not uncommon for you to, 1, draw multiple Manic Jacks, in which case when you drop the 1, you can go all in and drop like 2 or 3 Manic Mutations on him, which is hilarious. But again, we also are running Lesser Ward in this list instead of the Crown Quartermaster. And the Lesser Ward is a easy way to give Manic Jack a keyword, which buffs him up and gives him ward, right? So Manic Jack at 3, if you have Lesser Ward in your hand, becomes a 3-cost 4/4 with ward, which is pretty good in my book. You do also have Ward Crafter, which is another way to grant him ward as well. This list is also running 3 Royal Sages as a result, which is, you guessed it, another way to give him ward as well. So there's an awful lot going on that can make him just hilariously strong. Now, the last card that I want to highlight, because the rest of this is pretty standard fare for a mid-range sorcerer list. There's nothing that's going to look too weird, right? You got Mammoths, you got Trolls, Sorcerer's Negation's pretty much a must. You got your Daggerfalls, your Ward creatures, Haunting Spirit is still really, really good. But the other card that I want to highlight is Gnarl Rootbender. Now, this is kind of the piece that ties everything together, because if you're running Doomfang Ally, then you're not running Moose. And Fork by itself is not enough to cover the card draw void that not running Moose is doing. So Gnarl Rootbender gives you another way to potentially draw cards. Now, on the one hand, if your opponent just tries to remove it, okay, then it replaces itself. And sometimes that's good enough. But if you play Gnarl Rootbender and you give it a lesser ward, well, now you've got a 5/4 ward for 5. And this essentially cycled and drew you a card for free. That's pretty good, right? Now, Manic Jack here, if you happen to, for whatever reason, have Manic Mutation in your hand because you haven't had a chance to play Manic Jack, or it's just the way the game has worked out, or maybe you've played Rootbender and then you draw this, this is an action, and if you target your Gnarl Rootbender, this will cycle and draw you a card. So there are a couple of ways with Gnarl Rootbender that you can use these other cards that are already granting synergy throughout your list to also cycle through your deck and find some additional value. And when you put it all together, it's a lot of fun to play. I'm not 100% convinced it's all the way optimized yet, but I've had a lot of success with it, and again, it's been very, very fun. So for right now, it definitely gets my stamp of approval. It's certainly good enough of a list that it can take you to Legend, which is usually my rule of thumb when I do these deck spotlights, right? I want to say comfortably that if you picked this deck up and you pilot it, then it could be strong enough to just take you to Legend if you're a new player and you're looking for something to play. So yeah, this list will definitely do it, but it's also just really, really fun. So as I said, going to be deck code in the video description, a link to Legends decks in the video description, and as I always do with these spotlight videos, we're now going to jump into some games so I can kind of show the deck off so you can see how it plays and just see some of the hopeful interactions, right? Yeah, let's dive in. All right. So here we go. And looks like we are being matched up against Warrior, which in the past, for a long, long time, usually meant aggro Warrior, but because of the popularity of many new cards added in Isle of Madness, specifically like Drive Mad and Squish the Wimpy, I've been seeing a lot more Slay Warrior on the ladder, which may not bode well for us. Honestly, if it's aggro Warrior, we're probably not in a great spot either, just given this opener. But Slay Warrior in particular, in my opinion, is one of the few really bad matchups for this particular deck. And I say that because the Slay Warrior is very, very good at taking out large singular threats. So things like Young Mammoth, things like Bleak Coast Troll, for example, they can punish you by playing their lethal creatures and then
I slay the unworthy.
Pinging them.
So predictable.
Alright, so this is at least manageable. So we can get an attack in. We can take this out. And we're going to go ahead and shackle this as well. Try to get some forward momentum. But yeah, with the lethal creatures and the pings, if you don't draw the ward half of your package, if that makes sense, you can get punished pretty hard. And we're seeing that kind of right now, because I have not yet drawn the ward half of my package. Kappa. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do this.
Will be mine.
Problem is the Ald Valathi Assassin is a great way of dealing with what we have. Of course, they have a second rapid shot for the ward. Oh, interesting. They didn't want to keep the lethal creature, huh? We're okay with the events as they are currently unfolding.
Vile canker blossom.
So we're going to go ahead and take this lightning bolt.
I smell the stench
Develop
of
a
the
Barrow
living.
Stalker. Fortunately, poor Manic Jack here is not going to get buffed anytime soon, it looks like.
I smell blood on the
Oh,
wing.
that's problematic simply because rage is an issue. Now, they are a couple components away from rage, hopefully. But rage is an issue. We're going to go ahead and do this.
I see you're in need of my wisdom.
Alright, the ward is helpful. And we caught charge on the one, so that's also very nice.
You can't escape.
Motherless dog.
Wrong place for a
And-
midnight stroll.
So rage is a problem. But thankfully with the ward, and with us developing over here, it's not enough to potentially save them. Alright, so they're gonna go with a drive mad. Likely to see where this ends up. Right? They want to see where the buff goes. Naturally it goes to Manic Jack. This is still looking okay for us though. Alright. Still looking okay. Only
I
2
feel
magical
it.
left. Again, this is a really bad matchup for us, so things are looking on the upswing. Squish the Wimpy, okay. So they're giving themselves the potential out of a prophecy, and then they're just conceding. All right, so there you have it. Good, just tempo-oriented plays. You can see Manic Jack getting some buffs there. Let's go ahead and jump into another game and see how it goes. All right, so going to be diving into another game here, and we're up against Sorcerer. So this is likely going to be some kind of mirror. In the mirror, we don't want the prophecies in our opener. We want to find 2 drops, so we need to mulligan a little bit further. And I think, in all honesty, that keeping the spirit over the mage makes sense.
Greetings, citizen.
In the mirror, I think Haunting Spirit is probably slightly better because you're not likely going to need the card draw. You're going to be hitting each other back and forth. And the unfortunate thing for us is that we found a 2-drop, but was not one of the proactive ones. So we're going to wait a bit, and then instead of leading off with
Careful
a
there,
naked
friend.
spirit, if you will, we'll probably just answer here with a Doomfang ally.
We of the Leech adapt and survive.
And try to contest that way. So again, even if you don't get the ward, a 3/5 body is entirely reasonable. It's enough to really try to contest this. And puts us potentially in a good position for setting up
I will have your
some
head.
future trades as well. Now... Interesting. We're gonna go ahead and pop this ward, and we're gonna drop the Bleak Coast. The other plan of action was potentially Manic Jack into Mutation. That would have been enough to contest this as well, but it's really important to get control of the field lane if you can help it. So
Face me.
doing this is typically beneficial. Now, we're a little bit worried about like a lightning bolt here, but they just go with a mammoth, and that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to punch them, I think, in the face. And then we're going to go ahead and play a Harpy. And a Haunting Spirit. Gets us a little bit ahead on the race, sets us up for more favorable trades, and if we can stay ahead on the race, it'll make either Royal Sage more impactful, or at 5 we may even play Manic Jack into like a negation. We're gonna put the Harpy in this lane because if we do play Royal Sage, there's a chance this gets lethal. It gives us the option to trade up. Okay. I can respect that line by my opponent. I can respect it. Alright, so a couple of different ways we're going to tackle this, but we're going to start by swinging. And so they've got 11, 13. There's no way they've got 10 burst damage. So we're pretty comfortable with developing that. And then we're going to also develop Manic Jack.
Behold, my
And
magnificent
then what we're going to do is, if they want to take this trade with the Windkeep, that's fine. We want to protect Manic Jack with the ward while also buffing him, and then this puts us in a great position for Mutation plus Royal Sage to be enough for this to be a 6/6, which is relevant because it means potentially skipping the last rune. So a lot of considerations there.
I hate this crowd. It's damned uncomfortable.
Alright. So they make some trades. Now we're gonna do this. And then we're gonna go ahead and do this. And then as I
Face
said,
me, you dog. Well
this
fought.
allows us to skip the last rune,
I
and we'll
see
go ahead
you're
with
in need of my wisdom.
the good game back as well. And that got charged as well, but again, we
Let's
just want to
do
skip
the
this last
fix.
rune. And so you get to see Manic Jack is sneaky good at times, right? You can combo some plays together, really take advantage of him, and I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this build. It's a lot of fun to play, and hopefully you enjoy it too. So that's going to be it for this video, and I'll go ahead and reap some rewards here. But thanks for watching, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.